So for anyone who knows me well will know my love for trees. I love trees. And here's something that you don't know about me, or maybe you do, I don't know, it hasn't been summer yet, but I have a big blossom tree tattooed on my back. So there we go, look out for that in the summer. But yeah, such is my love for trees. And for me, trees tell so many stories, don't they? And they've watched our stories unfold as well. Because how many of us have gone for a walk and we've seen a great big tree with a great big round trunk and we've touched it, or it's been really high, really tall, and we've looked up in wonder and we've touched that tree and we've said, like, oh my gosh, this tree could tell many stories. Lots of us have done that. And trees are a miracle in my eyes. They stand there through many storms, through the storms of life, through actual physical storms, through the battles of life, and through actual battles as well. They've been stood there, many of them, for hundreds and hundreds of years. So, this is my love of trees. And we have, in our house in Salford, we have apples and pear trees in our garden. And I love watching the buds as they start to grow in the spring. You see them just on the edge. And then they start, the leaves just start to push through. And you watch them as they push through. And then the buds start to grow. So you watch that. And then they start to blossom into this beautiful flower. And you get the most wonderful flowers on them. And they just look beautiful. They are there in all of their glory in your garden. You think, I just couldn't think of anything more beautiful than these trees right now. And then it's like a wedding has happened, because then all of the petals all fall like confetti in your garden, and it gets everywhere, but it looks beautiful before the fruit starts to appear. And then we get these lovely green apples and pears that we can eat and we can cook with, only if the dog doesn't get to them first, because Henry loves the pears. And all of that sounds lovely, doesn't it? You know, just watching all of this happen before our eyes, we think, oh, how wonderful all of this is happening. But what I fail to mention when I'm in awe of these trees in my garden is the tension between me and Dan, my husband, when it is time to cut them back. The tension is incredible. My daughter is here hiding her face because she knows what I'm going to say. The children either go to their bedrooms or they go out. The dog hides under the table, the cat hides under the dog, the neighbours close their windows, the whole of Salford goes away somewhere because they know what's happening when it's time to cut the trees back, because this is how it goes. So Dan gets his saw or whatever he's got to use, he climbs up the trees, and I say to him, just a short trim, Dan, just a short trim. No, don't go crazy, my love. You know, I love the trees, please be careful with them. Up he goes. And then I stand there. No, that's too much, you're going too heavy on it, Dan, you're going too heavy. And then I start pacing around and I'm saying to him, Dan, what are you doing? What are you doing? Just stop, you're hacking at them, you're hacking. And he's there and he's going, it's fine. I'm like, it's not fine. So then I go into the house, and if the children are around, I say, look, have you seen what he's doing to the trees? And it all goes crazy in the house. And then I go back out into the garden and I see the tree has been got at. And I've either got myself a strong cup of tea, or if it's like the evening, I've poured myself a large glass of something by this point because I'm so stressed at the hacking of what I see as the hacking of my trees. And then I go out and I say, well, if you've gone and done that, you may as well just chop the whole tree down because it's worthless now. This is how it is in our house. The stress of watching these beautiful trees being hacked at turns me into a wild rage. It is something that I'm continually trying to work on, I will say. But then, Dan, in his calm and gentle manner that is my lovely husband, as he's hanging out of the tree, putting his life into his hands, sweating because he's been cutting at these trees. I'm sweating because he's cutting them. He's sweating because he's cut them. Hanging out of the tree, and he says, it's okay, my love. It's okay. It will grow. And it's not going to grow, Dan. You've cut too much. And then he says the words, we need to cut it back because then it will grow even better and grow more fruit. And I say, will it? I think you've cut too much this time. And he says, if we don't do this, it will die and it will make you even more sad. Don't you hate it when they're right? And I don't believe that I'm the only one in this room that has had that conversation in their garden. I must not be the only one. But the thing about this is that Jesus knew that we would feel this way sometimes. He knew that. And that's why he gave us a way better picture than my cut back apple trees in my garden. Because he says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Remain in me, and you will bear much fruit. So we're thinking today about crafting a rule of life. So how does this help us with a rule of life? Well, to start with, the vine is not optional. Jesus doesn't say, hey, if you're feeling extra spiritual today, maybe try the vine thing. That might work for you. He doesn't say that. He says, you need me like a branch needs a vine. Otherwise, you are just a stick. Just a stick. And not even a cool Harry Potter type of wand stick. Just a dry, crunchy, cut off the apple tree and thrown away kind of stick. So how often do we try to bear fruit on our own? Quite often, I would imagine. Because when we do that, we're not abiding. We're striving at that point. We spend our days multitasking and telling everyone how busy we are. Oh, my diary is so busy. And we pack our diaries so full that we need another diary to manage the first one, because that's what we do with it. And we ask Jesus to bless our plans instead of actually surrendering them to him. So this is where the rule of life comes in. Because a rule of life isn't a prison. It's not meant to trap us and keep us in. It's like a trellis in a garden. And that trellis, for us, is like a holy scaffolding. It's a way to structure our lives so that we stay attached to the vine. Even when life gets really loud and it gets really complicated, we can stay attached to it. Jesus says, every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. Now, pruning is one of those words that sounds wonderful, doesn't it? I'm just going to go and prune the flowers, or I'm just going to go and prune the apple trees. You feel like you should be going out with a floaty, flowery dress on or something. You know, you just go out and prune. And it sounds lovely until you're hacking away. Then it sounds brutal. Because at that point, it feels like when we are getting pruned, it feels like we're saying, God, why are you cancelling all of our plans? This is not what I asked for. This isn't what I wanted. I don't want to do this. We might be thinking, Lord, I know that I have to do this, but it's so hard and I don't want to. We might be thinking, but I love those trees. Sometimes it feels brutal to be pruned, but it's necessary. Because here's the thing, God doesn't prune us to punish us. He prunes us to free us, just as we've just been singing. And that's the difference. That's the difference in our lives. Sometimes he has to cut back good things so that he can grow things and grow God things. A rule of life invites us to ask hard, life-giving questions, like what needs to go? What do we need to prune in our lives? What is taking up space that could be used for real growth? Maybe one of those things might be binge watching shows until 2 a.m. in the morning. I definitely never, ever, ever do that. Never. Never binge watch Netflix. Maybe it might be saying yes to everything and everyone until we're running on resentment. Or even worse, burnout, where we literally can't do any more. But whatever it is, pruning isn't cruelty. It's love. It's love. It's God saying, you were made for real fruit, not just leafy busyness. Because fruit happens when you're not forcing it. Preparing for this, I watched some YouTube clips of fruit growing on a vine. And it's the most incredible thing to see how it evolves, how it starts off with something of nothing that looks like it's dead, and then it grows, and it grows. So I'm just going to show you this video. Isn't that incredible? How it starts off, it looks like it's dead, and nothing is forcing it. It's just there, and it's just growing. And then that wonderful fruit at the end, off of the branches. I am the vine, and you are the branches. Because fruit happens naturally when the branch is attached to the vine. That means that if we're not seeing love, joy, peace and patience in our lives, maybe we don't need to try harder. Maybe we just need to stay connected longer. Maybe that's what we need to do. Crafting a rule of life is about creating space to be with Jesus. So we might need to ask ourselves some questions. And we might need to say, what rhythms help me to feel connected to God? And we might need to ask ourselves, what drains me faster than a split paddling pool when it all just runs out? Building our rule of life around connection, not performance. Jesus doesn't end this passage with a to-do list for us. He ends it with love. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. This week, on Friday, I met with my lovely friend and my first vicar, Ian. And we were talking just about this, about love. That it all comes down to love. And not just any love. Jesus' love. Which is completely different to any kind of love that we will ever experience in our lives. Now, Ian is a wonderful, wonderful man that I absolutely adore, and he is so full of wisdom and humility. And he said to me, you know, or Pems as he calls me, we strive to be this and we strive to be that, but actually all we need to be is us. And then he went on to say, it's taken me nearly 76 years, but I think I'm okay now with being me. Just Ian, he said. And then he said this, but that's only because of Jesus' love. We can be us with Jesus' love. Because the goal here isn't perfection. Jesus didn't choose perfection. It's our presence with him. It's our presence with him. A rule of life isn't a checklist to impress God or to impress our friends to say how holy we are. It's a rhythm to stay in love with him. Because guess what? We weren't made in a sausage factory. We're not all meant to be the same. We are a beloved branch. And God is not our manager. He's not our line manager or our teacher at school or at work. He's our gardener. He is our gardener. And the best one that we could ever hope for. And he's even better, can you believe it, than your neighbour with their back garden vineyard and their multiple compost bins and their weirdly smug kale plants. He's even better than that. I know we've all looked over the fence at other people's gardens. So as I come in to finish, this is what I think that we should do when we leave today. I think that we should go home and light a candle. Or don't. We should put on some music. Or maybe we should sit in silence. We should make some lunch. Or maybe we should eat some leftover pizza from last night. But whatever we're going to do, we need to be in his presence as ourselves. Do whatever it takes to be you and him together. And then ask God 2 questions. What kind of vine are you growing in me? And then what kind of trellis do I need to help me to stay connected to you? You don't have to get it perfect. You don't need to write yourself a spreadsheet or, have a whiteboard or anything to have your rule of life. You can even scribble your first one on the back of a shopping receipt if you need to, if that's all you've got. But let's start one today. Let's start our new rule of life today. So there's 3 things that we need to start with. 1, practice of connection each day. What connects us to God? How do we connect to God as ourselves? And then we need to think about what we need to prune. What is getting in the way? What do we know deep down that we need to remove from our lives that is getting in the way between us and God? And then finally, we need to write down a reminder that we are wildly and ridiculously and lavishly loved, like no other love you've ever experienced. So what makes you you? Because that is the you that God loves. So, as we finish, let's remember this, that you are not an overly cut back apple tree in my back garden. You are a branch on the vine because Jesus said so. And our lives, each one of us, rooted in Jesus, is meant to bear fruit that is the sweetest and the most joyful and juicy fruit that there could ever be. You are the branch on the vine because Jesus said so. Amen.